You're listening to a classic business podcast as heard on Classic 1027. 1027.
South Africa's National Development Plan recognises that the future of this country depends on youth who are employed and empowered to contribute to the country's economic growth. And in the wake of COVID, the President has also committed to supporting SMEs as the engines of job-rich growth. And we know we have the world's highest youth unemployment. So the problem is clear and clearly a present danger unless we all start to bring our piece of the puzzle to solve it. And that's why I'm looking really forward to presenting this exciting partnership that Classic Business has entered into with Sum of 21. And last week we really focused on that problem of youth unemployment as a precursor to this incredible solution that's been developed for the creative industries with Janhendrik Oosthuizen, CEO of Etiket, and Roxanne de Matta Goncalves, who's a director at Strata-g Labour Solutions. Janhendrik and Roxanne, welcome back. Great to have you in studio, Janhendrik. Just sum it up for me. What is Sum of 21?
Mike, Sum of 21 in its essence is a creative agency or a creative incubator. What we've done is we've created a mini agency, and the focus of that agency is primarily to work with youth and get them into their creative and advertising environments. And it's two things that we've seen. The first thing is that in the creative and advertising environment, there's really a massive shortage of skills. And secondly, we have so far to go with regards to the transformation road. And Sum of 21 focus on that. We identify youngsters that have the skills, that have the passion to get into the creative and advertising communication environments, and we put them on a structured program. And through that program, we basically get them ready to be placed in the industry from an agency side or from a corporate side. In the 12-month structured program, we first and foremost provide them with a further qualification in the form of a national certificate in advertising. And over and above that, we make sure that we develop their skills. 80% of their time goes into honing those skills by focusing on real-life projects, real-life jobs with real-life clients. And by doing all of that, they get the skills that's necessary to be able to enter the formal environments out there. So in essence, it's a learnership environment that opens doors for people into the creative industry.
And that is exactly what we need, broadly speaking, in the country at the moment, is environments that nurture young talent, that create pathways into the world of work. And Roxanne, to bring you in here, if Sum of 21 is a learnership program, what makes it different from all the other corporate learnership programs out there?
I think it's a difference, Mike, between the unique proposition that Sum of 21 brings to the table. It's important to actually state what is currently going on in the market. A typical learnership program takes learners and slots them into the normal operational environment of the business, where seniors are firstly not equipped to look after learners, and secondly, they're not in a position to be trainers and mentors on a full-time basis, in that they have the primary roles where they have to service clients and they have deadlines and operational requirements to prioritize. That is the first barrier in terms of current learnership. The second barrier in terms of current leadership is that organizations are expected to deliver on certain requirements in terms of passing knowledge onto these individuals, but there's no visibility over the full project. It's very difficult to manage this kind of function within your organization and have those seniors over and above fulfilling their primary role and then still becoming a trainer and a mentor. Over and above that, still reporting into senior structures to be able to give visibility on the project and give impact. So, or a response on that, should I say. So the difference on Sum of 21 and where I think they have affected the model is the following. They have duplicated the agency function and run it alongside the organization, which means these individuals, whilst being able to get full responsibility over their functions, being able to have full access to the right seniors that have a training and mentor mentality, that only focus, their primary role is to specifically focus on these individuals and allow them to fulfill their responsibilities and roles without actively having to deliver on other deliverables within the structure. their responsibility is to ensure that these juniors actually perform at the level that they have to perform at. And then, of course, that the organizations, the sponsors, the grantors themselves, have visibility and transparency within the organization in terms of how and when these individuals exposed, what they're currently working on, and how the model is effectively costed and paid the return is on time.
And I mean, on that point, sadly, just as the line is breaking up a little bit, Roxanne, what excites me about this model, and I think we've all experienced it, Janhendrik, in an organisation where you've got deadlines every day. I love the whooshing sound that they make when they go by, said a very famous author once, Terry Pratchett. But we don't have the time, as much as we're likely, to mentor people. That we end up getting the juniors to go make coffee. And we don't really put in the effort and the time that's needed because we just don't have the time ourselves. In this program, you've got the seniors with no other job. Their job is really to be there to mentor and handhold. So how do you do this? Because that sounds quite costly. I mean, Sum of 21 makes use of a quite innovative business model with regards to financing the company. Can you just unpack that?
Mike, what is so important with regards to working with these juniors is that they work on real-life jobs and real-life projects. That's the only way that they can experience it, working with a real client. So it's very important for Sum of 21 to go out and build its own client base, and through that client base, bring projects and briefs to the table. But what we did decide is not to go after the normal corporate marketing and advertising budgets. And those are the budgets that at this stage really cut to the bone. So we decided to bring another model to the table. And in this model, Sum of 21 goes to corporates and they focus on BEE grants. And we focus on all the various BEE grants. We tap into those grants. We get corporate grantors to provide those grants and push those grants to Sum of 21. And Sum of 21 then use these grants to cover all the overheads. So to pay for the seniors, all of these seniors that then coaches and guides and trains the juniors, to provide stipends towards the juniors, to pay for the overheads. Everything that we do is covered through BEE grants. But what makes the model different is we then go back to our grantors and we say to our grantors to thank them for the grants that they gave us. We give them a bucket of creative hours. So they will have a certain number of creative hours and they can then use these creative hours over the next 12 months. For as and when they need creative work, advertising, communication work, those briefs will come to Sum of 21. The juniors will execute those briefs. We will deliver the executables, the tangibles back to the corporates, and they get what they need from a communication point of view without us touching their corporate marketing budgets. And I think for us, this model became such an interesting model because we do get two things out of that. Firstly, we get the grants that's required to develop these youngsters. And we do this via the BEE contributions. And secondly, because we give the creative hours for free back to our grantors, we get the real life jobs that our youngsters need to develop their skills.
It's very exciting. To me, the very definition of a shared value type business model approach where you are leveraging existing legislation and regulation. And Roxanne, to bring you back in, I mean, Sum of 21 really completely turns the broad-based BEE grant model on its head. It changes it from something of a grudge purchase, let's be honest, to something where the grantors can track progress and are seeing real tangible value as a result.
I couldn't agree more, Michael. I believe that true transformation comes when the intent behind the legislation is fulfilled. And in this particular instance, not only are organizations removing that resentment due to the fact that they're now throwing good money after bad, so to speak, in that they give organizations funding to grow and uplift either the organization itself or the individuals within that. And there is no real tracking on the impact that they've had in terms of their contribution, or there's no real return of value to the organization. And it makes it quite difficult to develop that long-term relationship we spoke about last week, in that one continues business with that little enterprise that grows into one of your most empowered and trustworthy and responsible suppliers that you can always call to and, more importantly, refer on and get into your networks. So I think there is definitely a value add there. The second thing is, like Janhendrik mentioned, is marketing and PR budgets are like hen's teeth in this kind of economy. And to be able to still have that lifeline as an organization and a measured entity by being able to tap into BE funds while still servicing the true intent behind the legislation, which is to actually empower individuals and create the working force of the future, that is tantamount to success. And the organization itself has been structured and meets all the compliance requirements from a BE perspective to be able to service all the measured entity needs, whether it is uplifting individuals through education or empowering majority black-owned businesses, or perhaps looking at community work and uplifting individuals within communities that are previously disadvantaged and have no ability to even enter into the educational phase of their career. There are elements where organizations can contribute from skills development, enterprise and supply development, as well as socioeconomic development. So this is the self-fulfilling prophecy of the future in terms of transformation and BEE.
What I love about the model is it speaks to outcomes. It speaks to output. It doesn't just say, well, this is the input. Let's go out there and measure ourselves and tick a box and say, well, we've spent X amount of NPAT on skills development and now we can walk away. You as a grantor or a business are getting a direct way to measure your ROI, your return on investment, because you're getting these tangibles back. And Janhendrik, what I love about it too, and this really is the kicker for me, is that Sum of 21 has this focus on SME development, which is a big focus for us here on Classic Business. How does the SME component all come together?
Mike, I think one of the main things or the realities at this stage is that SMEs forms the backbone of our economy, and specifically from a recovery point of view. It is SMEs that needs to go out there and do what needs to be done to regenerate the economy. And what we see so often from a marketing and a communication point of view is most of these SMEs have a great story to tell, but they don't have the means by which to tell that story.
Yeah.
And Sum of 21 is ideally positioned to help these SMEs to get those stories out there. The reality is most SMEs cannot afford a professional brand and advertising agency. They just do not have the budget, specifically in the earlier years. And what we now do is we, as Sum of 21, give them access to those services. And very, very interesting, we work with a lot of big corporates that have drives towards supplier and enterprise development, where they have incubators, where they look after SMEs within their incubators. And Sum of 21 then starts to play a role with these corporates. We work with the SMEs that form part of their incubation environments, and we start to provide the tools, the marketing tools that these SMEs require, from strategic brand development to brand execution, to the creation of a logo, the application of logos, to give them all the collateral that they need in order to tell their story, from a website to brochures and banners. We help them with social media. We give them everything that they require to be able to successfully tell their story. And that is what makes SMEs sustainable. If they have a sustainable way to get into the market, to speak to the right market and get that message out there.
I mean, we always talk about route to market and access to market for SMEs, but I feel we only touch on the surface of their conversation, because what you've just touched on is one of the key barriers for SMEs is they haven't had the budgets, the resources, or the wraparound support that this kind of program offers to say, well, this is how we will take you to market and we'll tell your story. Very often they have very compelling stories because these SMEs have come from places that you've never heard of, and they're doing fantastic things, employing people in the most difficult of circumstances because of COVID-19. So that excites me from a storytelling perspective, and the ability to support SMEs. And obviously from an economic perspective, this focus is something that's very close to our hearts here at Classic 102.7. So it's with a lot of excitement that we're doing this. We're introducing the Small Business Booster program. It's brought to you by Classic 102.7 in partnership with yourselves at Sum of 21. And we're going to be providing SMEs access to professional brand, marketing, advertising, all of those services, as well as a fully fledged radio campaign on Classic 102.7. And a very exciting thing that we're developing, we're co-creating together, and we're saying, well, how can we ensure that it's the outputs that matter and not just the inputs? So if you want any more information about the program, join us next Monday, same time. We're going to be unpacking exactly how the SME component works, or you can visit our website, go to classic1027.co.za/small. And it's just the way the website is structured. You've got to say small-business-booster, but it is classic1027.co.za Small Business Booster, or you can email us on smallbusinessbooster@classic1027.co.za. Get hold of me on Twitter, on my Twitter handle, or get hold of us on the WhatsApp line. That's 083 453 1027, and let's grow small businesses together.